just underneath the glass pyramid, so designed by Yao Mingpei, a very famous American architect, who actually has been appointed personally by a French president of the time in the 1980s, François Mitterrand, who decided to redesign the Louvre. He wanted the Louvre to become a modern museum. So Yao Mingpei did not only build the glass pyramid you just see above us, but also reshaped all the spaces underneath, just huge, massive areas. You have auditoriums, gift shops, you have also parking lots for car, buses, mall centers. But the main part of his project was the Court Napoleon, where we are right now. And when you get here, you have basically three different entrances, one called Dinan, one called Sully, and the last one Richelieu. Richelieu was actually used before the 1980s by the Ministry of Finance. So also project was about to move out this ministry and dedicate all the building of the Louvre back to the arts, its main purpose. So the idea was basically to, when you get here, you just take your entrance according to the things you want to see. Well, if you're coming to visit the Louvre for the first time and you want to spend approximately an hour and a half, 2 hours, I highly suggest you start from the Sully entrance. The reason is simple. It's because I think personally that it's always interesting to start from the beginning of all things, and the beginning of the Louvre is the medieval Louvre, because the Louvre is not only a museum, it is originally a fortress and then a king's residence. Well, so we just entered the Sully entrance. So when you get here at this point, you can actually, on your right, get some information about the evolution of the construction of the Louvre throughout the centuries, from the 1200 to modern days. So you have a little screen which shows you in a very interesting way the kings who have participated to the construction and the part of the Louvre they have built, because actually the Louvre has a very long history. It's very important when you get here not to only see the Louvre just as a museum, but also a place who has evolved throughout the centuries. So here we just got into the moats. It's interesting because the moats actually have been kept underground for I would say hundreds of years. It was in the mud, so they had the perfect weather environment to for its conservation. That's why it's still in a very pretty nice conservation. This is actually a view of the first Louvre when it was a fortress. And here the second key point in the history of the Louvre. In 1380, the King Charles V transforms the fortress into a residence, and this is how the Louvre starts as a king's residence for several centuries. Here is the Sphinx of Tanis. So Tanis is an old Egyptian capital located in the northern area of Egypt, and we can actually date the Sphinx thanks to the cartouche. The cartouche is actually the small inscription you can see just underneath his face on his chest. And it is highly possible it was built in 2000 years BC. Actually, when you get to this point, you have two different choices. Or you turn left and you could go to the Egyptian Antiquities department, or you turn right and you go to the Greek, Romans, Etruscan Antiquities. It is really up to you. The thing is when you decide to go to the Egyptian Antiquities, you need to know that you need at least an hour to visit, because there is no direct connection with the Greek Antiquities area. So when you go there, you have to just go around and come back here. So it's something you need to know. We get to the Greek, Roman, Etruscan department, which is actually alongside with the paintings department, the oldest of the Louvre. Most of the Greek statues we can see today are actually Roman copies. The reason is simple. It's actually the Greek used to use very fragile materials such as ivory of gold. I think, for example, to the statue of Phidias, the Parthenon, Athena. Or we could also use bronze. So the bronze was different, it could be reused later. So as a matter of fact, we lost a lot of the original Greek statues. Actually, we can be very grateful for Romans to have done so many copies. So we have a good knowledge of Greek sculpture today. Still, sometimes you have exceptions, especially for Greek statues belonging to the last period of Greek sculpture, the Hellenistic period, for which period we have more original statues. In the Louvre, we actually have two masterpieces belonging to that period. The Venus of Milo, you can see just right now, and the other one is the Winged Victory of Samothrace. So the Venus of Milo was actually discovered in the island of Milo. By sheer coincidence, has been discovered by a local farmer who was working on his fields. It was in two parts. Unfortunately, the arms have never been discovered, which is actually very sad, because you can actually identify the gods or goddesses represented by the attributes they hold in their hands. So here, as you have no attributes, it makes its identification pretty hard, but as the statue is very pretty and the proportions of the body are perfect, we might think that it's representing the goddess of beauty and love, Venus or Aphrodite by the Greeks. So when you leave the room of the Venus of Milo, you turn right in the caryatid room, which is actually a very pretty room, which was designed by the architect of Henry II. And this place was originally built as a ballroom. The name of the room, caryatid, is actually a reference to the four female statues which are supporting the balcony on the other side of the room. This is actually a direct reference to the Greek art for female statues supporting actually the roof of a temple. Here, just supporting the balcony where the orchestra used to stand and play as the nobles were dancing in that room. So here you have another interesting statue called the Torment of Marcius. This is actually based on a story of mythology. Marcius was a very good flute player, and he dared to challenge Apollo, the god of music and art himself. He lost the contest, and for his pretentiousness was condemned to be flayed alive. So this scene is actually representing the poor Marcius hanging on a tree, waiting for his torment to start. So you can and on the top of that staircase, you have the second icon of the Louvre, the Winged Victory of Samothrace. This is also actually original from the Hellenistic period. Represents the allegory of a victory as she's descending from the sky and landing on the prow of a boat to announce naval victory. And what we know is that they use two different kind of marbles. One for the boat, the island of Lemnos, and for the statue they use actually the most refined marble of ancient Greece, the marble of Paros. So this is also another very important section of the Louvre, the Italian painting. So here you have the Giotto, St. Francis receiving the Stigmata. He's still following the tradition of Byzantine work, so there is no actually not even trying to represent the death into his painting. Actually, all the back is covered with a golden layer. What is important here is the main subject of the painting. But Giotto is actually considered to be one of the first artists to try to reintroduce the use of perspective. So if you look down there in this little section, look on the ceiling, there's a little bit of attempt of representing the depth into that space, in that little room.